Welcome to the Academic Success Crash Course series presented by the Office of Academic Skills at Washington College. Today's video is Reach the Finish Line and is all about creating a study plan for the home stretch of the semester and finals. Look at the big picture. As you near the end of the semester, there's a lot going on and it can be really overwhelming. Always take time to take a step back and look at the big picture, then take it piece by piece. Look at each assignment as a whole. What should the final outcome look like? Then you can break it down into manageable chunks, steps, or tasks in order to create that final outcome. Don't become overwhelmed by the magnitude of the assignment. Calculate exactly how much time you have until the deadline. You can take that and use it to figure out how many steps or tasks you need to complete each day. But the stress with the end of the semester is often that there's multiple assignments, papers, exams, all happening within days of each other or on the same day. So we'll talk in a moment about how to balance it all and set miniature deadlines for yourself. Hopefully, as you break down assignments, you realize any questions you may have or clarifications you may need so you can go talk to your professor. Visit your professor to ask any questions before starting the assignment. Ask for a rubric. Ask about the format of the exam and address any other questions you know you have before starting review or starting to work on an assignment. So how do you break down assignments? Well, with an exam, you might break it down chapter by chapter or maybe by type of studying activity, such as rewriting or reorganizing your notes, making flashcards, taking a practice test. The more material or the more difficult you anticipate the exam being, the more specific you should be in your planning, so don't get overwhelmed and also so that you don't forget anything. With papers or other assignments, break it down into 3 major sections: planning, doing, checking, or revising. In the planning phase, this would be making a brief outline, finding sources, making a more detailed outline, and anything else you do before you really get into the bulk of an assignment. In the doing phase, you can break the paper down by number of words, pages, sections from your outline, whatever works for you or makes the most sense for that assignment. Then, in checking and revising, you need to plan to give yourself time to review your work, take it to the professor, or have someone else look at it and make any other changes or improvements. Either way, always make sure to leave ample time to address questions with a professor, attend course mentor sessions, or see a tutor if necessary. If you're having trouble figuring out how small of chunks to break things down into, think about how long you can really focus well on it. Some people work best in 20-minute increments. Some people work better for an hour at a time. Aim to have each task take that amount or less. When you have a lot going on, it can also be helpful to write how long you think a task is going to take next to that task on your calendar or to-do list. That way, between class or when a meeting ends early or a different task took less time, you just find yourself with extra time, you can easily identify a productive way to use that extra time. Predicting time a task will take can be tricky for some people. If that's you, try also writing down how long something took after you've completed it. Over time, you can compare how long you thought something would take and how long it actually takes, and use that information to predict and plan better in the future. In addition to breaking down assignments, you also need to schedule time to get it all done. Maybe you already follow a study schedule, and that's great. If you do, look at what's due in the next few weeks and evaluate if you need to add time to your schedule. If you don't currently have a study schedule, go check out our Plan for Success crash course or make an appointment with an academic skills tutor to create a study schedule. It's simple and really not a long process. Definitely worth the investment of time. At the very least, identify overflow times. These are times that you can study if needed. For instance, if something is taking longer than you thought it would or something else comes up, making that plan for overflow time can accomplish 3 things. 1, if you're starting to feel overwhelmed or frantic that you don't have enough time to get it all done, having the plan for overflow time can set you at ease, which is not only good for your mental and physical health, but will also make the time you are doing academic work more productive because stress and anxiety slow down our learning and processing and interfere with retention of information. 2, setting aside this overflow time means that there's strategy behind it, so you can A, avoid all-nighters, B, generally work at the most efficient times for you, and C, avoid burnout. That brings us to the 3rd thing that planning overflow time can do. It's helpful to have events or activities to take a break and give your brain a break. If you get to a point where you're overwhelmed and don't have a plan B may become all-nighters, which I already mentioned, but it also may mean that you skip club meetings, movie night with your roommates, or plans you had to go walk by the river, or whatever else it might be. It's important to take breaks, and having a plan of when to work can help you do that, so you're taking care of yourself and making sure your brain can function as efficiently as possible. So when do you plan your overflow? You can plan Saturday mornings or time you don't normally study on Sundays. Maybe you can say you'll get up an hour earlier to start working if you need to. You can also identify activities you need to skip if it comes to that, keeping in mind that breaks are necessary. Having a study plan also sets you up for success by helping you use time productively even when you're not as busy or don't have as many things due. Because you're working ahead and learning a little bit at a time, it's way more effective and less frustrating than cramming. Our brains actually absorb and process information better the more times we see it. Basically, the more times you have to go find that information in your brain, the easier it is to locate in the future. It also means that you're going to make more connections from that material to other material, and that helps us remember and process information better. It is even helpful for avoiding procrastination. Studying a difficult subject for 30 minutes is way easier to convince yourself to do than convince yourself to spend 6 hours on it the night before an exam or when the paper's due. I usually recommend students set aside 30 minutes or so each week to review their study schedule and make any needed alterations for the upcoming week. Review upcoming assignments, break those down, and make a plan or priority list of all the tasks. During busier times, it may be better to do that at a set time each day or every other day to avoid being overwhelmed, and in terms of using that time and energy efficiently. Either set that time the night before, or just not the last thing of the night, because if you do, you're more likely to skip it or not really be thinking very strategically about your plan, or you can do it early in the day, the next day, before you start on the rest of your tasks. When to do what? Take a look at all the assignments and exams you have and the tasks you've broken them down into. Then look at your priorities. First of all, what's due first? What's due last? But also, which assignments or exams are worth the biggest percentage of your grade? Which class do you want to improve your grade in? Or which classes are the most important to you for any reason? You can just mentally prioritize or actually number the tasks. Then impose some self-due dates using the actual due dates. So as we discussed at the beginning about how many days until the due date and how many tasks you would need to complete each day to get there. If there are 10 tasks and it's due in 5 days, that would be 2 tasks a day. But you don't actually have to do that. Maybe one day you have more time available and you do 4 of those items that day. And then the next 2 days you just do 1 item each day. Maybe you do that because there's a few tasks that it's just way more efficient to do back to back. The 2 tasks a day or whatever it works out to be based on your assignment, that's just a guideline or a starting point. As you do self-due dates, also keep in mind priorities. Higher priority tasks you should plan first and plan to finish sooner to give yourself more of a buffer, whether it's due sooner or your grade on it is really important, so you leave time to edit and make improvements if needed. Once you have a few assignments worth of self-due dates set up, back up again and look at the big picture. Look at the amount and type of tasks you're planning to get done each day, and compare that time for your studying on your study schedule. If you need to shift something around because you won't have as much time on a given day or need to figure out how to put more study time in a day, do that now. Then think about the rest of assignments and filling them into your plan. Maybe you have 5 items that you've self-assigned to be due on Wednesday and no items due on Thursday. Look at your remaining assignments that you haven't planned out yet and fill in that space. So you're planning more for higher priority tasks and working around that for lower priorities. Again, lower priority might just mean it's due later or not worth as much of your grade. This is also why planning a few days in advance at this point in the semester can be really helpful, so you can make more adjustments as you go and to make sure you're keeping on top of due dates and using your time efficiently and according to your priorities. It can be really helpful to have a day-by-day list, so you only have to look at 1 or maybe 2 days at a time so you can stay laser focused. Don't forget, everyone learns differently. What works for one student may not work for someone else. 2, be flexible. You might need more time than you thought. Address this as it comes and adjust your plan. This is what we talked about with overflow time. Don't let yourself get discouraged. Adjust and get back to work. This is also why it's helpful to plan a little bit each day. Include everything on your list. Don't forget other assignments. At this point in the semester, sometimes students let reading assignments slip or low point quizzes. Make sure to prioritize them along with everything and don't lose track. Sleep. The night before an exam or a project is due, you should not be cramming. Try to know where to stop and rest to keep your brain and body functioning at its highest potential for the remainder of the semester. If you would like to go into more detail, please visit the Office of Academic Skills webpage and make an appointment with an academic skills tutor.